In the quiz section of Canvas, we can create more than just a graded quiz, which is what we've created in the past. We can create 4 different types of items. We can create graded quiz like we have in the past, where the students are given a grade for each question and a total grade. But we can also create a practice quiz where the students are given, again, feedback in terms of a total grade, how well they did on each question. However, that grade does not get put in the grade book and does not impact their total grade. This is a great tool to use to give students, for example, practice quizzes so they can get used to the quiz system in Canvas, or to recap knowledge, to see where they're at in their knowledge. So kind of like a review practice quiz, so they can see where they have knowledge gaps and address those by focusing more on those aspects of the course and reviewing those before the real graded quiz. Alternatively, there are also surveys we can create. For surveys, there is no correct answer. There's no right or wrong answer like there is for quizzes. Surveys are meant to collect information from the students. So, for example, you could collect information on what courses they've taken in your field, what is their experience like. You could also ask them questions about what they would like covered in a recap session before the midterm, things like that. You can gather information, for example, on their technology background to see how comfortable they are with the kind of software you'll be using in the course or tools that you'll be using in the course. So all that can provide you a whole bunch of information from the students without there being a correct or right or wrong answer. When it comes to surveys, you can also create an ungraded survey, which means that the students will take the survey, provide you the information, but it will not impact their grade. They will not receive any credit for it. Alternatively, you can make a graded survey where the students will receive a grade for having completed the survey. So they can either get the full amount of points that you set up for having completed it, and this happens automatically, or they don't get anything because they haven't taken it. When you choose graded survey, you suddenly get a score box where you can type in how many points the student will get as credit for having submitted this survey. The other key important thing is when you're creating surveys and you're making the questions, notice that for surveys, there is no correct answer. Every answer in multiple choice, multiple answer is marked as possible answer. These are options for them to pick from, but there is no correct answer though. They just get a credit for having completed it. So we're going to cancel this and see a couple of examples. So the first example we're going to see is a practice quiz. When we're looking at the practice quiz, the only differentiator is from the student's point of view, as well as for you as a quick check, is that it says quiz type practice quiz. Like a regular graded quiz, it still has amount of total points. Each question has its own points and the system tallies them up for a total amount of points. Time limits, all those settings still can exist and be set up by you just like a graded quiz. The only difference that the grade they receive is only informational. It does not impact their total grade. So when they're taking this practice quiz, it's very similar to what happens when they do a graded quiz, which is why practice quizzes are amazing tools to use to get the students, especially in first year students, accustomed to the quiz tools in Canvas. And it will give them, if you set up a time limit, it will tell them how much time they have remaining on the right hand side. Just like a regular graded quiz, the question types will be presented the same way. This is a multiple choice question, this is a fill in the blank question, and they submit it and get feedback just like a regular quiz. Regular graded quiz, but their performance is informational only, does not impact their grade. Now let's look at an example of a ungraded survey and a graded survey. Right here in this module, you see the first one is a ungraded survey, a math background survey. Then the second one is a recap session survey. This one is graded. The difference is at a quick glance is that the second one mentions the amount of points that they will receive. So let's look at this example of the ungraded survey. It says right here it's ungraded, has no points at all, but all the other settings can still be there. So what kind of questions could you ask in a survey? This one is, for example, a math background survey where the questions are asking them what kind of math courses they've taken in the past, how much university or college experience they have, and what college they're coming from. Perhaps as a first year math course instructor, you might be curious to know how many of your students are from the College of Arts, how many are from engineering, how many are from humanities, just to get a gauge of where your students are at in terms of their past experience and interests. The other survey is a graded survey. So the other one, once they complete it, it will give them a summary of what they answered, but they will receive no grade whatsoever. This one, by contrast, is a graded survey and the point section is now blank. It says 10 points. This one is a recap session survey. So some professors can use discussion boards to ask the students what kind of topics they're interested in covering or what questions they have for a recap session before the midterm, for example. But you can do a similar thing with a survey where you can have the students select what kind of information they want covered during this recap. For this example, this is a physics course. They're asked which chapter they want covered during that recap session so that the faculty member can look at the results and see, oh, 50% of my students chose chapter 4, so they feel like they have some knowledge gaps there and they want that covered a little bit. Let me focus more on that. Nobody chose vectors, so I guess they all are very clear on what's expected and what they should know about vectors. Then the second question is asking them about the concept they're most familiar with. So the professor may choose to skip those concepts that are chosen the most because it seems these students are understanding. And then the third question is asking them if they want a review of the first quiz during this recap so that they have a refresher on those questions, which will also be covered during the midterm. And they get to pick one of these three options. But when they submit this particular survey, they will get 10 points credit for having gone through the exercise of actually responding. And unlike a discussion board, these 10 points will be given automatic. So the minute the student submits the quiz, they will receive the 10 points I assigned to this survey. So they can get credit for having participated and given me information about what they'd like to see covered during a midterm. The other contrast is that when we look at the grades section, this particular view right now is showing only those items in that first module. Even though we have an ungraded survey there, it does not appear in the grade book because it's ungraded, has no grade associated with it, therefore it does not appear in the grade book. Similarly, the graded quiz, quiz 2 appears here, but the ungraded quiz, quiz 1 does not appear here. So those are the different types of surveys and quizzes you can create with the quiz tool in Canvas.